Hello everyone, this is Hershel Franklin. I am reading to you from this little book, One Dog's Story, subtitled a book about life. I wrote this book. It was copyrighted in 2009, and it is my plan to read to you a chapter in each video until it is finally concluded. And after that, I will tell you more about the book. I'll tell you more about it right now. It's a short book. It's only, let me tell you, 183 pages. And I printed off well enough or large enough that I could read it. So I used to be able to read it without glasses. Can't do that anymore. So the chapter 2, the ancient agreement again. When I say the dog story, that's Murphy telling her story. When I say the human story, that's me telling it as I remembered it. The dog story. I was a young pup. I was a little sad, but a whole lot excited. I'd been told I would soon have a new home. I didn't know where or who it would be with or what it would be like. Mama had talked to me about it, and at first I thought she was saying that she and I would be moving to a new home together. But when she explained to me that I would be leaving and going to a new place without her, just me and my new family, it broke my heart, and it made me cry. For 2 days, I stayed right by her side, refusing to leave her. I was afraid if I went outside or into another room without her, she might not be there when I returned. I was afraid every time I looked at her, it would be the last time I would see her, and I didn't ever want to look at her for the last time. This had all started several weeks earlier when I was outside playing tag with Zeke. Zeke was so much fun, I couldn't believe I'd known him for only a couple of days. Zeke was a monarch butterfly who was migrating south for the winter. He said he was going all the way to a place called Mexico. There were hundreds of them in the yard one morning, and he and I became friends when we first met. 2 days later, they had all moved on in their migration, but Zeke stayed behind to play with me. I worried about him, but he said not to worry. He would catch up with them later, and if he couldn't catch up with them, he would be able to join another group, which was scheduled to come by through any day. There was a time in my life that I didn't play with other creatures so much. When I was born, about 6 months earlier, I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Our humans said it was an average-sized litter, 7 pups in all for a yellow lab. We were a happy lot. Our humans were kind and Mama loved us. She loved us all, but I had a feeling she thought I was special. She named the boys Matthew and Mark and Luke. She said she was sorry she didn't have a 4th boy so she could name him John. There was just something special about that name as far as Mama was concerned. She said there had always been something of an empty feeling in her life because she did not know anyone named John, but she felt she should. I didn't know what she meant by that, and she could never explain it. She named my sisters Mary and Elizabeth and Sarah. She named me Martha. Over the years, I came to cherish both the names and in the precious memories of my beautiful family. I've been learning quite a lot in my short life. There was a time when I was young that I was interested in anything pertaining to Native Americans. So I'd given us all names more appropriate to the native Indian lore I was creating for myself and my brothers and sisters. Excuse me. I'm sure there's a pause button I could push to stop this, but I don't know where it is. I was simply amazed at how much I had learned. 6 months earlier, when I was born, I think my brain must have been the size of a grown tick. I didn't need it to be any bigger because there was nothing in it. It doesn't have to be very large to hold nothing. How it must have grown since then. In those 6 months, I had crammed so much into it that it must have been swelling to the size of a grapefruit, or at least an orange. And I couldn't see an end to the stuff I could learn. I started off learning all kinds of smells and sounds. Mama would hide behind a bush in the backyard, and I would find her by simply smelling her trail. I could hear a dog bark and know whether it was her or that crazy dog on the other side of the fence that lived with the neighbor humans. I could tell from the sound whether it was a friendly greeting or a threatening gesture. Then I learned shapes and sizes, but I had trouble with colors. I never did get those right. And rules. I sure learned a lot of rules. Without even trying and without formal training, I'd learned quite a bit of human speak. They don't understand dog speak at all, but we understand them quite well. Somewhere I had learned about Native Americans. I believe my female human said one time that she was an Indian, and I found it simply amazing. I gave everyone an Indian name. I called Matthew Geronimo, and I called Mark Cochise. They were rough and tumble boys, and I thought they seemed like a Geronimo and a Cochise. Luke was more thoughtful and contemplative, so I named him Sequoia. I called Elizabeth Pocahontas, and I called Sarah Sacagawea. Mary seemed to be more like Mama than any of the rest of us, and I imagined she would be the perfect mother someday. I couldn't think of a single name that would fit her, so I gave her the name of an entire nation. I called her Cherokee. I couldn't think of a name for myself, and Luke, Sequoia, suggested I should be called Sycamore Talk-A-Lot. And everyone laughed, but I couldn't understand what was so funny about that. I asked Mama if she would like a new name, but she said I should just call her Mama. That was the greatest honor she could think of. Luke was the first of us to go. Some humans came by after we reached our 2-month birthday and looked at all of us. They played with us, and I saw Mama sitting to the side, beaming with pride. I was shocked when they left as they picked up Luke and took him with them. I growled and barked, but Mama said, "Martha, it's all right." She didn't want to talk about it after that. She just said we should try to remember Luke and realize he was in a new home, and we should pray it was a good home and that he was happy. The rest of us still played together and spent time learning all we could. It wasn't the same without Luke, and I missed his common sense and wise counsel. Mama continued to devote herself to us, and I could tell it was taking a great deal of effort on her part. She missed Luke even more than we did. Without Luke, I tried to be more practical in what I did. I tried to fill the void, thinking someone needed to be calm when everyone else was chaotic. But back then, that just wasn't me. I didn't have the natural calm and reflective nature Luke had. His being taken away hit me especially hard. After that, someone took Mary. It was the same sort of thing. Then Matthew went. Mark and Sarah went on the same day. It was a week after that Elizabeth was taken. But now I wasn't growling and barking anymore. I just sat beside Mama, wagging our tails slowly, letting a tear fall when we couldn't hold it back, and telling her goodbye. It had been nearly 4 months and no one else had come. I just assumed our humans thought I was special and wanted to keep me and Mama together. These were particularly good times. Mama and I would play outside together. We were becoming the best of friends, and she was teaching me so much, filling my head to overflowing. When I would marvel at how much I had learned in such a short time, Mama said, "Martha, just remember to look, smell, and listen. Listen especially to your humans because they have so much to teach you." I was playing with Zeke that day, and we were having a wonderful time. He would sit on a blade of grass, and I would jump at him. Just before hitting him, he would fly off, and I would land on my belly flat on the ground. I could jump about 2.5 feet off the ground, so Zeke would hover about 3 feet off the ground, and I would jump and snap at him, knowing he was in no danger. We would both laugh. I would roll on the grass, and Zeke could barely keep flying. He was laughing so hard. I was glad Zeke had come into my life, if only for a few days. I had named him Zeke because when we met, he didn't have a name. He said there were so many of them, there weren't enough names to go around, and numbers wouldn't work because no one could count that high. I told him he needed a name, so I could call him when I came out to play in the yard. I told him I would call him Zeke. "Why Zeke?" he had asked. "Because you look like a Zeke," I replied. Now here we were, laughing like a couple of goofball human adolescents and having a wonderful time. "Zeke," I said, "I'm going to miss you when you have to rejoin your migration, but you can come back next year. I'll be here with Mama." No sooner had I said that than our humans started laughing too. "That's got to be one of the dumbest dogs on earth. She's chasing a butterfly. No wonder we can't even give her away." Our male human never said such an unkind thing, and I was a little shocked. But our female human was kinder. "She's not dumb. She just enjoys her life. Her spirit is part of the spirit of everything else." So there, I thought. Well, maybe so, but that'll be our story anyway, and we'll stick with it. Bill has a friend that wants a yellow lab. I'm taking her to work with me next week, so maybe this guy will take her. "I hope he does," replied our human. "She's about 6 months old now, a little old to be giving away. If he doesn't want her, I don't know what we'll do. We can't keep 2 dogs." I'd never been so shaken in all my life. I jumped up and screamed for my Mama. I ran away from there so fast looking for her, I forgot all about Zeke. He must have gone on with his migration, and I was so distracted, I never missed him until some time later. I never got to say goodbye. the human story. I'd wanted a lab for some time, a yellow lab. Black labs were too commonplace, I thought. I was going to get a brown lab pup one time, but the litter had been stricken with parvovirus, so that didn't work out. A lab is a great breed of dog, loyal, loving, and trustworthy. They probably weren't any good for a lot of things. I was sure they couldn't work cattle, but it had been a long time since I'd had to deal with cattle anyway. I didn't know if they would be protective, but so long as they would awaken me, I thought I could protect myself. I wanted a lab because of their smart and caring nature. I was looking for a dog for a companion, and was certain the lab would be the best dog I could get. I wanted a yellow lab. I suppose I felt I'd lived long enough that I had a right to get what I wanted. We already had dogs in our home. We had a toy Pomeranian called E.T., and we had a boxer named Beauregard Van Reuben, but we just called him Beau. E.T. wasn't a bad dog, he just was useless. If you wanted a cute little dog, he was certainly that. But if you wanted to look beyond cute, you were out of luck. That's as far as his positives ran, and I didn't see any potential for anything else. Beau was a good dog, a beautiful dog, sleek, muscular. He was protective, but aside from that, he wasn't really good at interacting with us. It was hard to keep him in the yard because he had such a wandering spirit. He could jump nearly every fence I put up. And when he did it, it was a devil of a time trying to find him again. If I ever took him out, it had to be on a leash or he'd run away. He always seemed pleased when I found him, but I was always the one who had to do the finding. On the positive side, I always felt safe when he was around. What I was really after was a dog for a relationship, a dog I could care for and love and be able to depend on. It might be a little foolish, but I was ready for a dog that could like me and show it. I was ready for the loyalty and the caring. I was ready for a lab. My friend told me he knew a guy who had had a litter of yellow lab pups, and he would check to see if he had any left. The dog story. "Mama!" I yelled, running to the side yard where she was lying under a tree. "You won't believe what the humans just said. They have someone they're going to give me to." I was crying and I wasn't sure she heard me. "Mama!" I was screaming at the top of my voice. I had lost all control and didn't care what I said or did. Had the humans been there, I might have bitten one of them. "I won't go. I won't. I'm telling you, I won't go. And they can't make me. I'll not let them take me away from you." "Martha," Mama said softly. "I won't go, Mama. They can't make me. If some guy comes around here thinking he's going to dognat me, I'll bite him. I will, I swear it." I was impetuous in those days. I often argued when it was a pointless argument I was trying to make, would talk when I should be listening, and usually tried to get in the last word. This is not a good trait in a dog or a human child. "Martha," Mama said again softly. Her voice, in all its softness and yet ever so strong, always had a calming effect on me. "Martha, it's all right." I'd quit screaming and was now more confused than angry. "Mama," I whimpered, "do you want me to leave?" "No, Martha," said Mama. I don't want you to, but that's the way it is. Martha, a long time ago, the dog family struck a bargain with the human family. No one remembers just when, since it was so long ago. We were living out in the wild with all the other wild and mean animals. It was a savage time, and it was taking a toll on our ancestors. We weren't wild enough to hold our own. Now, the humans back then were living in caves. Can you imagine that? These humans, so smart and powerful, were living in a hole in the ground. But humans back then were not exactly like these today. If we were not savage enough for those times, the humans were simply pitiful. When they worked together, it was amazing what they could do, considering how smart they were, and they were smart. But one-on-one, they were no match for the meanness of those days. Those vicious savages out there looked at the humans as just something else to eat. They didn't have claws or sharp teeth, and they were easy pickings. Why, at night, sometimes a lion or a tiger would sneak into the camp of the humans and steal a child or two and eat it. It was unspeakable savagery in those days, Martha. Mama was speaking with such passion, I forgot about being angry. The problem, Mama continued, was that in spite of all their brilliance, and they were brilliant, they couldn't see as well or smell as well or hear as well as we could. They couldn't run as fast or as long as we could. They couldn't fight as well or bite as hard as we could. But for all their weaknesses, we loved them. So we struck a deal with them. We agreed to help them watch out for their enemies and warn them when danger was around, night or day. We agreed to smell for them, see for them, hear for them, and yes, we even agreed to fight for them. All of this we agreed to do, help the humans, and all we asked in return was shelter in their cave, a little bit of their food when they were through eating, and a scratch now and then behind our ears. Now that's something we really do enjoy. Listening to Mama, I began to see just how much and why she seemed so devoted to her humans. She was honoring that ancient agreement to help the humans for so little in return. But Mama, I said, not screaming anymore, why can't I stay here and help these humans? Because, Martha, these are my humans. You have to find your own. But Mama, I'll miss you. And I'll miss you too, Martha. But, Martha, it's all right. And that's the end of chapter 2.